You already knew something had changed. You felt it before you could explain it, in the way her energy shifted, in the softness that returned, in the calls that started coming back, in the late night texts that seemed to appear from nowhere. You felt it in your chest. Something was different. And this time, for once, it was not her pulling away. It was you. You had stepped back. You had gone quiet. You had stopped reaching. And suddenly, the world around you started responding in a different way. If this is speaking to you, stay here with me. Subscribe to the channel. There is more truth here for men who are ready for it. Hit subscribe and let's go deeper. There comes a moment in a man's life, usually a private moment, where something inside him finally changes. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It does not come from rage. It does not come from bitterness. It comes from stillness. It comes from exhaustion that has finally turned into clarity. It comes from pain that has done its work and has nothing more to teach. It comes from the moment a man gets tired of chasing what should not require chasing. And in that quiet moment, he stops reaching, he stops explaining, he stops trying to be selected, he stops trying to prove his worth, and something deeper rises inside him. Something ancient, something steady, something that had been there all along underneath the effort, underneath the hoping, underneath the constant trying. That thing is his real self. And when that self finally stands up without apology, people respond differently. She responds differently too, not because he became someone else, but because she is finally seeing the man who is always there beneath the overgiving, beneath the over-explaining, beneath the need to be chosen. That is what we need to understand. What happens in a woman when she truly realizes she has lost a man? Not just that he is physically distant, but that he is gone inside, that his energy is no longer moving toward her, that his mind is no longer reaching for her, that his peace has learned how to exist without her, that his mornings no longer begin with thoughts of her, that his life is no longer bending around her presence or absence. That creates a different kind of loss, and it creates a different kind of response. There are patterns in this, not so you can manipulate, not so you can play games, but so you can understand value. So you can understand what changes when a man stops abandoning himself. The first thing she feels is the silence. Most men do not understand the weight of their own presence. When a man has been constantly available, constantly trying, constantly showing up, he becomes part of the background in a woman's life. She may not consciously appreciate it. She may not even realize how much space he takes up. But he is there like a steady hum, like a sound that fills the room so consistently that it becomes normal. And then one day it stops, and the silence hits hard. That silence communicates something powerful. It says, without words, he has moved on. Not with a speech, not with an announcement, not with drama, with stillness, with absence. And real absence speaks louder than any message ever could. A lot of men make the mistake of announcing their exit. They send the long paragraph. They explain every wound. They lay out everything they did. They try to make sure she understands what she is losing. But in doing that, they give her something to react to, something to argue with, something to deny, something to minimize. A silent man gives her none of that. He leaves her with only the space he once filled. And space is powerful. Never underestimate the force of a man who no longer needs anything. This is where identity begins. This is where real masculine grounding starts. Not in performance, not in appearance, not in money alone, in needlessness. In the quiet certainty that your life still has meaning even without her. That your mornings still matter, that your work still matters, that your growth continues whether she notices it or not. That is the kind of man who becomes hard to forget. Not the man who was always available. Not the man who bent himself around her moods. Not the man who kept apologizing for things that were never his to carry. The man she thinks about is the man who stopped needing her to think about him. That truth is uncomfortable, but it is real. Not because women are cruel. Because human beings value what becomes scarce. What is always there often fades into the background. What is suddenly gone becomes visible. This is not a trick. It is not a dating tactic. It is human psychology. And a man must understand it, not to use it against people, but to stop being blind to it. To stop giving away so much of himself that he disappears in the process. Now we need to talk about identity because this is where everything starts. A man must know who he is, not who other people told him to be, not who he became to keep someone, not who he performs when he is afraid of losing approval. Who he actually is, his standards, his values, his boundaries, his way of moving through life. When a man does not know these things, he becomes unstable. He keeps adjusting himself. He becomes reactive. He takes his shape from someone else's preferences, moods, and approval. And a man shaped by another person's approval has no shape of his own. She cannot deeply respect that, even if she wants to. Over time, a man without boundaries, without edges, without a core, becomes difficult to value properly. Not because she is heartless, but because attraction needs polarity. It needs contrast. It needs the presence of a man who remains himself. A man who does not melt into whatever someone else needs him to be. A man who keeps his own center. That is identity. And when a man takes it back, she feels the shift. usually before she can explain it. His energy is different. He is not as predictable. He is not as easy to read. He is not as available. He does not respond with the same urgency. He does not over-explain. He is simply more rooted in himself and less caught in her orbit. That difference creates questions in her. Questions she did not expect to ask. Did I lose him? Is he really done? Was this the version of him I failed to appreciate? Those questions are not created by a performance. They come naturally when a man becomes himself again. Now let's talk about attraction, because many men misunderstand it. Men often think attraction is mainly about doing more, saying more, giving more, providing more, and those things can matter, but the deepest kind of attraction is not built on doing. It is built on being. Who a man is matters more than how hard he tries, how he carries himself, how rooted he is in his own presence, whether he has a direction, whether he has a mission, whether he can sit in silence without panic, whether he needs constant reassurance or whether he is at peace in himself. That is what creates lasting attraction. Not constant gifts, not endless texting, not dramatic gestures. A man who collapses under pressure, who changes his position to avoid conflict, who cannot hold himself steady, loses something important in her eyes. He may not notice it in that moment, but something starts eroding underneath the relationship. Now compare that to a different man, a grounded man, a man who speaks less but means more. A man who is not hungry for validation. A man who has a life he is building whether or not anyone is watching. A man who handles difficulty without theatrics. A man who can be warm without becoming weak. A man who can be strong without becoming cold. That man holds attention differently. Not because he is trying to, because he feels different. And when a woman realizes she may have lost that kind of man, something in her wakes up. Sometimes she hides it at first, sometimes it comes out slowly. But internally, something has shifted. One of the first outward signs is softness. The walls begin to come down. If she had been cold, she becomes warmer. If she had been distant, she starts coming closer. If she had been critical, the criticism fades. Because when she believed she still had him, she may have tested the connection. She may have pushed boundaries. She may have taken for granted that he would still be there. But when she feels that he may truly be gone, the testing often stops, and something more genuine appears. Sometimes the man sees a version of her he has not seen in a long time. More warmth, more care, more attention, more softness. And that can be confusing, because part of him responds to it. Of course it does. It may be the very thing he wanted for so long. But another part of him, the part that finally knows his worth, watches carefully. And that carefulness is not cruelty. It is wisdom. Then come the conversations she starts. She reaches out more. She checks in. She finds reasons to contact you. She asks how you are doing. But underneath that question is another one. Are you still available to me? Is there still a way back in? Did I truly lose access to you? A man who knows his worth does not rush to answer those questions with desperation. He does not throw the door wide open. He does not slam it shut in anger either. He simply stays grounded. Warm, but not desperate. Kind, but not overeager. Present, but no longer endlessly available. That calm response says more than any speech ever could. Now let's go deeper into self-respect, because this is the base of everything. A man without self-respect will accept things he should never accept. He will tolerate being ignored. He will tolerate being treated like an option. He will tolerate inconsistency, disrespect, and emotional leftovers. And then he will explain it away. He will tell himself she is confused. He will tell himself she is going through something. He will tell himself that if he just waits long enough, things will change. Sometimes those explanations are true, but often they are stories a man tells himself so he does not have to face pain honestly. And what is real is simple. What you allow is what you believe you deserve. Not what you say you deserve, what you actually allow. If you allow yourself to be ignored, you send a message. To her and to yourself, you say that your time is not valuable, your peace is not important, your presence can be dismissed without consequence. And people believe what you repeatedly communicate. This is hard to hear, but it is where growth begins. Self-respect is not arrogance. It is not being cold. It is the quiet certainty that you matter. That your peace matters, that your time matters, that your life matters. And because of that, you are not here to remain available for someone who only notices your worth when you start leaving. A man with self-respect does not give constant ultimatums. He makes decisions. He does not beg to be treated better. He removes himself from spaces where he is not treated well. That is dignity. One comes from desperation. The other comes from self-respect. One tries to control. The other simply enforces standards. And once a man truly moves forward internally, that is when everything changes. Now we need to talk about purpose. A man without purpose will always look to relationships to give his life meaning. When he has no larger mission, the relationship becomes his center. It becomes his identity. And that is dangerous, because when your identity is wrapped around another person, you lose yourself the moment things become uncertain. You become unstable when she becomes unstable. You cannot be steady for her because you need her too much to be steady for you. A man with purpose is different. He has something to return to. When things are hard, he goes back to his work, his mission, his growth, his contribution, his discipline, his calling. A man moving towards something becomes different from the inside out. He has direction, he has momentum, he has weight. And when a woman sees that his life is still moving without her, that he is building something meaningful, she understands something important. He does not need her in order to survive. He may want her, but he does not need her. That distinction changes everything. A woman watching a man she once took lightly build a life of depth without her often experiences a deep kind of clarity. She sees what she had, she sees what she may have lost. And that realization can bring regret, humility, renewed pursuit, or a softer energy she never showed before. Now let's speak about masculine grounding because this holds everything together. A grounded man knows where he stands. In his values, in his decisions, in his responses. He is not ruled by emotion, even though he feels deeply. He does not make major choices from panic. He does not let pain throw him off his foundation. Grounding is not the absence of emotion, it is stability underneath emotion. A grounded man can feel hurt and still think clearly. He can feel lonely and still keep his standards. He can feel drawn to someone and still hold his position if that is what his life requires. That kind of man is rare. Not because men cannot become that, because it takes practice, it takes silence, it takes reflection, it takes knowing yourself well enough to know what you stand for and what you will no longer accept. Without that, a man has no center. And a man without a center cannot truly be lost because he was never fully found to begin with. That may be the deepest truth here. A woman can only fully lose a man who has fully found himself. That is why the whole dynamic changes. That is why the silence matters. That is why her behavior shifts. She is not just reacting to distance, she is reacting to the loss of a man who finally became real. A man who is his own, a man who stopped trying to be whatever someone else wanted and became fully himself. That man is difficult to replace. Not because he is perfect, because he is real. And here is the deepest truth of all. You do not do this work to make her regret losing you. You do not do this work to win her back. You do not reclaim yourself as a strategy. You reclaim yourself because it is yours to reclaim, because your life belongs to you, because there is still time ahead of you. Because on the other side of all the begging, all the shrinking, all the adjusting, all the waiting, there is a version of you that lives differently. A version of you who wakes up with peace in his chest. A version of you who does not wait for a text to begin his day. A version of you who does not measure his worth by who chooses him. That man already exists inside you. He has been there the entire time, waiting for you to stop outsourcing his value to someone else, waiting for you to come back to yourself. And when you really do that, everything changes. It's not only how she sees you, how you see yourself, how you walk, how you speak, how you carry responsibility, how you hold your own life, with dignity, with intention, with quiet confidence. Not because someone finally told you that you are valuable, because you decided it. That is the real shift. That is the real power. Not in her reaction in your decision. The decision to stop living small. The decision to stop waiting. The decision to stop measuring yourself by somebody else's ability to recognize your worth. The decision to stand fully in who you are and let the world meet you there or not. Either way, you are still whole. Either way, you are still moving forward. So stand in your truth. Know your worth before anyone confirms it. Protect your peace with the same intensity you once used to chase someone who did not know how to value it. Build with discipline, grow with purpose, move quietly where quiet is needed, and never make yourself small again for a place that was never built to hold the fullness of who you are. You are not here to be convenient. You are here to become significant in the deep, quiet, undeniable way of a man who has done the work, a man who knows himself, a man who trusts himself, a man who has decided once and for all that he is enough, not almost enough, not enough when someone approves. Enough, fully, completely. That is who you are. Now live like it, every day, without apology, without hesitation, without waiting for permission. And if this message reached you today, if something here felt true, subscribe to the channel. There is more here for you. More honesty, more depth, more of what men truly need and rarely hear. Subscribe now, we'll be here.